Have you ever, zoned out while you're walking? Your legs just kind of keep going. And
Yeah,
your mind is totally somewhere else.
it is
It
amazing.
is kind of wild how our brains can
Yeah.
handle, like, movement, from something like that
hmm
all the way to, like, split-second reactions.
And that's what we're going to take a look at today with Chapter 9
Okay.
as our guide. Like, how does our nervous system handle it all?
Okay, cool.
From, like, basic reflexes to the brain's command center.
That's really cool. So where do we even start with something like that?
Well, let's start simple.
Okay.
Let's talk about reflexes. You know the knee-jerk reflex that the doctor does?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's a classic example of, like, the reflex arc.
Okay, so they tap your knee and your leg
Yeah,
just
sure.
shoots out.
That's it.
Like, bam.
So what's actually happening there
Okay.
is you've got this sensory receptor in your knee tendon called a proprioceptor. It's kind of like a tiny little motion sensor.
Okay.
It gets triggered by that tap,
Okay.
and it sends a signal whipping right up to your spinal cord.
Okay.
And without even bothering the brain, a motor signal is fired back down to make your leg extend.
So it really is totally automatic. The brain is, like, out of it.
Totally out of it. And that brings us to a really key point.
Okay.
Open loop versus closed loop responses.
Okay.
That knee-jerk, total open loop,
Okay.
like a rocket that's been launched,
Okay.
total pre-programmed, no adjustments once it's fired.
That makes sense. But most things that we do are not that simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take walking, for example.
Okay.
That's a closed-loop response.
Okay.
So as we walk, our proprioceptors are constantly sending info back to the brain
Okay.
about our balance, what the ground surface is like, all that.
Okay.
And that allows for on-the-fly adjustments
Oh, okay.
while we're walking.
So, like, every step we take,
Yeah.
we're, like, kind of fine-tuning it?
We're fine-tuning, exactly.
Oh, wow. So, what else about walking? Because it's like you said, it seems so simple, but it's actually such a complex movement.
Well, that's where it gets super cool. We've got these things called central pattern generators in our spinal cords.
Okay.
They're these neural circuits, right? And they're like little rhythm generators. They create those alternating leg movements
Oh.
without the brain having to micromanage every single step.
So, like, even when, like, I'm not consciously thinking about taking a step,
Exactly.
you just keep our legs moving.
There was this crazy study mentioned in the chapter.
Okay.
They put cats with severed spinal cords
Oh, wow.
on treadmills. And guess what?
I don't know. What?
They could still walk.
What? Really?
Really?
So, like, just their spinal cord is doing that?
Yeah, the spinal cord's doing its thing. Pretty wild, right?
Wow. That is mind-blowing. Okay, so we've got these reflexes and then these central pattern generators that are happening in our spinal cords.
Mm-hmm.
What does our brain actually get involved?
That's where Chapter 10 comes in.
Okay.
It's all about the brain's role in what they call higher-level action control.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a chain of command.
Okay.
You've got the spinal cord handling the basics, and then the brain steps in to set goals, to plan, to sequence those more complex actions.
So, like, if I decide, okay, we make a cup of coffee,
Right.
like, what's happening in my brain?
Well, your brain's got to think about a ton of stuff. Where's the mug?
Right.
How much coffee do I want to pour? What's the order of movement so I don't spill everything?
Right, right.
And all that planning is happening mostly in this area called the prefrontal cortex,
Okay.
kind of like the brain's executive center.
Okay, so the prefrontal cortex is planning it out, and then what about actually, like, doing it, like moving my arms and stuff?
So that's where other brain regions jump in.
Okay.
We've got motor areas that send commands down the spinal cord,
Okay.
and the cerebellum, that's kind of like the fine-tuning center and make sure everything's smooth and coordinated.
Okay. So it's like a whole big orchestra in there?
It really is. It's incredible.
It is. It kind of makes me think about, like, free will. If there's so much happening that we're not even aware of,
Yeah.
how much control do we actually have?
That's a question that's been around for a long, long time.
Right.
And Chapter 10 kind of touches on this idea that maybe that conscious feeling we have of making a decision, maybe that happens after the brain has already started the action.
So, like, my brain is already doing it before I even realize.
That's one way to look at it.
Wow.
It suggests that our sense of agency,
Right.
that feeling that we're the ones making the choice,
Right.
maybe it's more like a story that our brain tells us after the fact.
Wow, that's a lot. So from simple reflexes to all these philosophical questions about free will,
Yeah.
our brains are like masters of movement. It's crazy.
They really are. And understanding how it all works, I mean, that's key to addressing things like movement disorders, to making better prosthetics, even pushing the boundaries of robotics.
So next time we see a robot moving around like it's nothing,
Right.
like, or even just grab a cup of coffee.
Exactly.
Think about all that crazy stuff happening.
That intricate dance of neurons.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our deep dive today.
For today.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been fun.
Yeah, and we'll catch you next time.